Hello and welcome to the Comedy Slab podcast. I'm Shane O'Connor, fresh from a nice batch of cheese on toast. He's Adrian Lacey. He's probably had caviar and chips or something equally as exotic. Say hello, Adrian.
Hello, Adrian. And it's not that exotic because it was pasta. It was, what can you rustle up quickly before a slab? And there's never enough time, as you will testify against me. I'm rarely ready for our date night. Or date morning, if you're listening in the morning. It was humble pasta and mushrooms, capers. Oh, there was a right old caper going on. I don't mind telling you.
Who just rustles up capers? I had cheese on.
No,
toast.
they're in a jar.
I only had cheese because we found it down the back of the cooker. What's the matter? Capers. There's some right old capers in here, mate. I tell you. I don't think we've got any capers in the house. I think if we had to, if we stopped the podcast now, or made it Shane and Adrian's caper hunt,
I would win by a country mile.
That's a difficult one to say, so you've got to be careful how you do that one.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, you would. You'd be capers down, mate. I tell you.
I would. I once went out with a woman, or was it twice, who said,
"Sorry,
I don't know,
no competition."
It wasn't in Limerick, but she won't be funny now out of context. But she was a very funny woman. People would say she'd have to be to go out with you, mate. Yeah. But the punchline was, da-da-da-da-da-da, I know what you're going to be cooking, Adrian. It'll be caper curry. So I've clearly got a caper reputation.
Yeah. If you've never heard the podcast before, basically each week Adrian and I will alternately choose a comedy programme. Sometimes they're brand new programmes. Sometimes they are from the archives. Sometimes they're TV. Sometimes they're radio. Sometimes they've even been on the internet as well, haven't they? And internet only, and sometimes they can be in the form of podcasts. So more or less anything, as long as it qualifies loosely as a comedy programme, we'll then talk about it, dissect it, and give it marks out of 10. And at the end of the podcast, we'll tell you where you can find the programme and tell you what's coming up for the following week. It was my turn to choose, but before I tell you about that, I've just got a bit of good news from one of our previous podcasts, Adrian. I don't know if you saw this, but Stath Let's Flats has got a second series.
Oh, fantastic.
Go on.
I thought you meant we had
series.
Yes, we won't quite finish that sentence. Yeah. Very Alan Partridge. That's brilliant news. Yes. Did we think that was likely?
Can you remember when it was? I'm just trying to look to see what the score would have been
on the door.
It was way back.
I know
episode 7 of our podcast. So I haven't got the score to hand because I still haven't done my homework and gone back and scored them all and put them down. And I'll send you the list when I do. But I seem to remember we quite liked, didn't we? Don't you think? I think it was one that we.
You definitely did. I think yes. I had some hesitations, but actually, I think your nay love for it was so infectious. That I was infected. So, yeah.
So, yeah, that's good news for them. Well done. And because it's not easy, is it, to get it? Because it was Channel 4, wasn't it, I think?
Yes.
So well done to Jamie Demetriou, and his sister was in it as well, wasn't she? Who actually follows the Slab on Twitter, which is...
She does indeed.
Jolly decent.
There's no accounting for taste, is there?
She's a nice one, she is. We like her. We like her a lot.
Yeah, we do.
So well done to them. Anyway, it was my turn to choose last week, at the end of last week. So obviously that's what we've been watching for this week's episode. And I chose Ideal, Johnny Vegas. It's basically, and it isn't a particularly complicated setup, is it? As you'll have probably gathered from watching it. Because the thing with it is, and I'll be intrigued to know what you think of this, because I do kind of feel that this falls into the category of, if you've watched one episode, you've probably watched them all, because of the fact that it is a very static premise, and i.e. The premise is that Johnny Vegas is a drug dealer and it centres in and around his flat. It doesn't very rarely go very much outside the environs of his flat, and so all the characters come to him. And there isn't is there more to say than that about what Ideal is all about?
I very belatedly got the title. I'm glad you didn't spoil it for me. Did you get that?
No, what do you mean?
You must do. Why it's called Ideal? Because it's a far from ideal situation. And it only dawned on me about a couple of hours ago, if I'm honest. Ideal.
Do you know, I never picked that up.
Genius, isn't it?
I've watched
He
seven.
probably thought that one day.
I've watched 7 series of that, and I've never.
You didn't get it.
I have never picked that up.
Well, let me ask you why you thought it was called Ideal. Do you think it was BBC Three being arch and surreal or ironic or something flash?
I've never really let that trouble me. I feel really bad now. What a waste of my
Don't.
life.
No, I feel bad making you feel bad.
Ideal. Because you deal.
Do you? Yes. Hang on, I just said that.
It's like the scales are just falling. I knew I'd heard it somewhere before. It's like the scales are just falling from my eyes, and I swear to God, I feel such a fool.
Don't. I love that. You love your honesty though, because you could have bluffed along with it.
I've got to go.
Shall we do a retake? Take two.
Should we? Yeah, let's not. Let's do a. You tell me what you want to choose for next week. Let's go and watch that instead. I feel such a. Can I say that?
No, you can't.
Okay, we'll have to bleep that out. I feel such a fool. Such a silly sausage. I can't. Oh, man. Oh. I wish you hadn't told me in a way, but I'm glad you did in another.
But, it could have been a 7 series before I got it. It just came as a flash. I was looking at the title and just asking myself again, because I didn't get it earlier in the day. I confess I've only been doing my homework today.
Right.
I always leave, I'm a crammer.
I think that's quite good, though, because it's fresh in your mind, isn't it, then, as well?
That's the theory, and hopefully the practice. Yes, it is. It is. So. Can we keep going? Because otherwise it's unfresh in my memory. I've only got retention of the average goldfish.
Hurry up. It was 7 minutes since I watched it.
Yeah, I need a refresher course.
Oh, man, I feel such a fool.
Don't. I know I forbid you. I forbid you to feel a fool.
Ideal. It's clever, though, isn't it? It is clever.
I wonder if Graham Duff, I'm talking clever writing. We'll get on to that in detail in a bit. Because we've got 3 audio clips to go. We should probably get onto one of those quickly. But all I was going to say was maybe Graham Duff woke up one morning, thought, I feel ideal, and then built a show around it.
Yeah.
There's a feature on, have you listened to Dead Ringers recently? The Impressions show on Radio 4.
I used to be an avid fan. I've kind of gone off, and I think I dropped the habit. I lost the habit. Sometimes where you just you change doing things at a time when it was on. So I'd listened to a lot of radio in the car. So if I wasn't in the car, I've not heard it lately. I do like it. A big fan though.
Well, I got all excited in the run up to Christmas. It turned out they were only doing 3 Christmas specials, but that's 3 decent, really, well, more than decent shows. Anyway, they used to have a running gag. I don't think they revived it for the Christmas ones just gone. We thought of the title first. Do you remember that? I can't think of a single example now. But anyway, that's my contention about Ideal. Shall we have a wee listen? Sorry, you're going to say something.
No, I was going to say, before we do, you mentioned Graham Duff. He's the writer. He's the guy who conceived this as a series, as a programme. What do you know about him? Do you know anything about Graham Duff at all? Have you looked him up?
Only what I crammed on Mr. or Muzpedia earlier. And I didn't realise until I did that, and also studied the credits a little, that, of course, he is in the show as Brian. Oh,
yeah.
Which we might get to a bit more later on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very talented guy, all-rounder as well, was a DJ and all sorts.
He does do that, though. He does. He has a tendency to appear in things that he's been involved in, that he writes in. The one thing that I wanted to mention is that he was the script editor on 7 series of Count Arthur Strong as well, the radio show.
Ah, right. Well, there's a pedigree.
So he's got because this is a baby cow production, isn't it? So he's got a long history of collaboration with Steve Coogan and Henry Normal as well. And I think do you ever see Dr. Terrible's House of Horrible, the Steve Coogan series of 6 that he did?
No, the first time I've come across that was tonight in researching about Graham Duff, the writer and actor we're talking about. So I should investigate. Maybe we should slab it.
It's very reminiscent of Garth Marenghi.
Right.
Was it Garth? It is Garth Marenghi, isn't it?
Yeah, Garth Marenghi's Dark Place.
That's it. 4. It's a very similar, but it was the first thing that Coogan did, and I'd think one influenced the other. I'd have to check the chronology of which one came first at that to tell you which was which. But anyway, he was involved in that as well, and I think he acted in that and did some writing as well. And he did a fabulous one, which I think we'll have to get around to slabbing one day, a series called Heaven, which if you haven't seen it, I won't ruin it for you, and we'll stick it on the Slab one of the days because I think you'll really enjoy that one. But I mean, my point is that as a writer, he's, as you say, he's got many strings to his bow. But as a writer and as an actor as well, he's certainly no slouch. He's certainly been involved with some of the people who are producing Premier Comedy. Not least Coogan and Henry Normal as well. And this is from BBC Three, isn't it? When BBC Three was telly.
Yeah, in the good old days.
If you can remember back that far, kids.
And also where you could F and Jeff to your heart's content in those days.
I mean, we're so old. We remember when telly was also a piece of furniture.
Yeah, it was a Chippendale whatnot, as DJ Ray Moore used to call it.
Yeah.
Actually, he was talking more about gramophones. But yes, that does seem a far-off age now. And this is over 10 years old, isn't it? More like 12, 13, the show we're slabbing now.
Yeah, it caused a bit of a rumpus when it didn't get recommissioned as well after 7 series. I mean, I think you've had a pretty fair run. You're moaning after 7. Oh, we didn't get an 8 series. I can't believe it. You tight ones.
God, you rotters.
Yeah, what's the matter with you? Anyway, sorry, you're right. Clip. Do you want me to introduce, or do you want to introduce Clip, or?
You introduce as you've put this on the slab, and I'll come out of it.
Okay. This is from quite early on, and I have to say how easy it was to clip this, because it is very verbal, isn't it? There's not huge amounts of physical comedy. There is a lot of, in my opinion, great writing, but there's a lot of words in it, kind of thing. There's a lot of interaction, as you would imagine, because Moz has got the flat and everybody comes up to get the drugs. So he's got a constant stream of people coming to see him and coming to buy from him. And as Adrian rightly said, that Brian is one of the main characters who I think comes in every episode. I think actually comes for some drugs, I'm pretty certain. But he's always got a new boyfriend with him. And this time we meet Brian and Owen.
Owen wants to set up a gym. Tell him your plan.
I want to set up a gym.
I'm going to join. I love exercise. Hey, I might run the London Marathon.
Well, you want to be careful. Watched it last year. Half of them finished in wheelchairs.
You never thought about getting into shape, Miles?
I am in a shape, thank you. I'll have you know I have a very distinctive outline. Why have a six-pack when you can have an old barrel?
Alcohol's just empty calories.
Well, I'll have you know empty calories are better for you than normal calories, because they weigh less. I mean, they're bound to, they're empty.
Come on, join his gym.
I run a mile from exercise, me. Well, I amble a mile from exercise. You're saying, Brian, gym. You'll have a paddle-out jacuzzi. You'll talk about how thick the towels are. You'll never go again.
Oh, yeah, I've got stick-at-itness, thank you.
Stick-at-itness, you? You come round here with a different toy boy every week. I think you get him out of Kinder Eggs.
Cracking joke. Eggs, cracking. Oh, please yourself. I'm here all week. And I love the reference by Johnny Vegas character, a different tomboy every week.
Yeah.
Interesting use of that term in the context of a gay guy.
I thought, no, he says toy boy, doesn't he? He got a different toy boy. I think it's his accent.
Oh, right. I think or could it be a typo in the email? Anyway, I won't blame you.
Did I put tomboy in that?
You put tomboy. Oh, it's even funnier. Maybe you should offer that to Graham Duff. You can have that. I did hear it earlier today, but of course, as we've gathered, with that goldfish-like memory of mine.
Have you ever heard
It's funnier, though.
It reminds me of that Hancock thing. Have you ever remember that Hancock thing where Bill Kerr's typing? And you can hear him going, ch, 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 ch. And Hancock says to Bill Kerr, he says, do you have to wear gloves when you're typing? And he's going, ch, ch, ch. He says, I like wearing gloves. Ch, ch, ch. They keep my hands warm. Ch, ch, ch. Doesn't hurt anyway. Ch, ch, ch. And Hancock says, yeah, but do they have to be boxing gloves?
Brum, brum.
Oh, love it. Oh, sorry about that. That was my typo. Do you know the interesting thing with this? I thought, as I say, it's all about those conversations, isn't it? It's got to be sharp if it's going to sustain, because you've got nowhere else to go, have you, with this?
Yeah, there's it's very theatrical in that sense, isn't it? Because everyone coming to him.
That's a good idea. That. Yeah, I wonder why they haven't made a stage show of it. That would be.
Yeah.
Oh, you could do that for breakfast, couldn't you? That'd be easy. That was a good idea.
Well, it's all written, isn't it? There'd be loads of people wanting to see it. Ready-made audience.
I don't think Ideal the
Just a
musical
thought.
would work as well, would it? But I think
Well, but the music is quite, quite central to it, isn't it? And I was interested to see it, and I would have thought, relatively unusual. Our star writer, about whom we keep referring, Graham Duff, he chooses the music. Now, I think a lot of writers would like to be able to choose the music for their shows, but traditionally, I think it's a directorial thing.
okay.
Although when I was working on EastEnders, which has become my phrase, a bit like my dad starting a sentence, rest his soul, with "when I was in the war." So BBC Television has become my war. It's a kind of, it's a war that takes no prisoners. But I used to cheekily... well, actually, no. Directors divided into two different types, really. Those who were very musically aware and those who would just trust me to offer something.
Okay.
And more often than not, I mean, not least because we were up against the clock. I used to do the work on the dubbing, having done the studios. So you got the studio recording, which of course got no music on it. So you put it at the dub at the final stage for sound, and but it's an interesting thing. I enjoyed doing that.
I'm always mesmerised because I never realise, and us mere mortals don't realise these things, but you would know it all along, and you alluded to it there, is that like if there's a disco scene in a TV show,
I know what you're thinking.
all the people are going
I'm doing that.
to total silence.
Yeah, usually yes, and I mean that's the answer to the sound engineer's prayer. There was one case on EastEnders where my boss, the sound supervisor, was missing one day. Missing? It makes it sound like he just went wandering. No, he knew he was, for whatever reason, he was taking a day off, but he left it to me to get the message across to the floor manager. Shows how long ago this is. Arthur Fowler with the late Wendy Richards, bless her, as Mrs. Fowler.
Pauline.
Pauline, thank you. How could
God, I don't know where that
forget?
came from.
Yes.
That was in the space where ideal and the meaning of the ideal should have been that I got pulled
Yeah.
up. I haven't got that in there.
I'm sorry to say that your brain will increasingly, like mine, resemble Emmental cheese.
Or what we call in Birmingham, sponge. It's like sponge.
Anyway, so they had this scene where they're recalling their sort of courting days, and one of them puts on a record in a sort of swinging 60s thing, and the joke is Arthur comes in sort of waving his hands in a very sort of funky 1960s way. And the plan, well, my boss said, whatever you do, can you make sure they don't play music over that, because it'll be a right old pain for us to
dub.
And the editor will mess it up and so on. And I lost the fight, and I was so apologetic to him. But he was, bless him, he was completely relaxed about it.
Who are you fighting with? Who wanted the music on?
Good question.
Would it be the actors or would it be the?
No, I mean Bill Treach, who played Arthur Fowler, was an absolute dream, real sweetie. I think he was just so... Someone said to me once, he just felt he'd landed on his feet at the end, or towards the end of his career, because he'd trodden the boards. What are you laughing at?
I thought you were going to say shag down.
Now, we're going to have to bleep that as well if you're not careful.
No, you can say that, surely.
You'll be on a red card if there's any more effing and jeffing.
You can say shag down,
meffing.
can't you?
Well, you just said it a second time. But anyway, you could do the bleeping if we deem it necessary. We've got to have a post-production meeting.
Before we move on, I've got to ask you, when a
Yes.
sound supervisor goes missing as yours did, does the music go dun dun dun?
Where's he gone? Anyway, just to finish the point, I think it's it probably came from the director, and the director's voice on earth is the floor manager. Anyway, all was well, and it was fine at the edit. I think we might have had to tweak something, but it mostly worked. But of course, I understand from the actor's point of view, if you want to get the rhythm right, which is important in dancing, you can't do better than have it played at volume while you're recording it. But it just it's the way we record TV. It stop, start, and retakes, and just pick up the odd line here and there.
Yeah.
You know, you end up with a huge jigsaw to try and tidy up afterwards.
I always wonder whether it has to be like that. I've always got, because having worked in radio news and seen TV news at a local level, and the way that they work and the way that we work was so immediate and so as live. And I often think, I always wonder whether they have to make it that difficult. It's like I always say, because my wife used to read the news on TV, and she could always hear the gallery. And I always say to her, why do you have to hear she said she'd hear, and like 99% of what she was hearing wasn't addressed at her. And I say, why did you have to hear that? I don't understand why you had to hear that. And
there is the alternative, as you know, she knows, switch talkback. But it's news culture, isn't it? TV news culture.
Yeah, it's a lot of it. We do it because we've always done it that way. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, do you remember Ideal? We were
really
slabbing a while ago. Oh, sorry. One more EastEnders question. The Duffs at the end, was that a live drummer every week, or did they do it?
That was Bill Treacher, who played Arthur Fowler.
He had a set of rototoms in the corner.
He was on royalties, for every beat. So you can see why he always wanted to keep it live.
I love it.
But the amazing thing to me is that I don't think the music's changed, and I haven't worked on the show since 1998.
God.
You'd think they'd to pass the hat round to have a remix or something.
How I wish I was Simon May, I'll tell you. Oh dear. What a nice little nest egg that's been for him over the years. What did you make of the set on Ideal? Because it's quite a repellent flat, isn't it?
And meant to be.
Yeah.
Actually, what it makes me think of is if the Beeb had any worries about doing a show about a drug dealer, generally, the flat being part of it, it's not an attractive lifestyle, is it? No one's going to watch that and think, gosh, I wish I dealt drugs from my flat. Yeah. I find it very convincing. I mean, to the point where I didn't think, oh, this is a set built in the studio. I don't know whether it is or not, but utterly convincing and utterly consistent with the character Moz.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's dirty, filthy, as you say. None of the characters... There isn't one that's aspirational in it at all, is there? for any reason. And I mean,
they're all underachievers.
And I have to say, I mean, we watched Series 2, Episode 1, because I think Series 1, and I read a review earlier in the week which kind of bore me out on this. I thought Series 1 was a bit sticky because it did a lot of setting up kind of thing,
right?
But you kind of like as you get through the other series, the characters get either weirder or more repugnant, and so there is nobody in there that you kind of think, oh, I'd love to be like Psycho Paul, you know, or Cartoon Head. I mean, Cartoon Head. We'll come on to Cartoon Head in a minute, but yeah.
Is that a jive bunny on his head?
It's a mouse, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah, it's supposed to be a mouse, yeah.
He's constantly wearing this mask. Isn't it a sort of... Sorry, you didn't want to get onto it just...
Well, just because I wanted to talk about the actor that plays Cartoon Head as well a bit later on. Can we do that in a bit? Is that all right?
Of course we can, yes. You try and remember, because you know about me and my goldfish... what was I saying?
That's a nice castle. I just love some of the lines in it as well, and the one I picked out was Johnny Vegas. He said, "Oh, I'd run a mile from exercise. Well, I'd amble a mile. It would make a run away from exercise." Which I just hadn't he lost? He's lost a lot of weight, hasn't he? You just when you see that, you realise how much he has lost.
Yes, from dare we say it's a slightly high bar, but. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen him much that recently. We were going to talk about him. All I was going to say was I haven't got any personal anecdotes. All that slightly annoyed me about how he arrived on the scene, and you could argue it's not his fault at all, it's out of his control. You know those series, I don't know if they're still running, of 100 Best blah, 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 comedy double acts.
Yes.
I'm a complete sucker for those, actually. You'd think they'd be annoying because you only get a short clip. But actually... You get a short clip and then another comedian or double act comes along in the next minute, so you don't don't have time to feel cheated. But he cropped up on those as the voice of authority when I'd never seen him before. And I thought, who's this guy's... What is his authority to tell me? I might as well appear there in my PJs and slippers and say, yeah, I quite like this one. This comic's funny. This show was great. You know, he had, for me, because he arrived as if from some other planet, it was just weird, just the timing of it. But obviously got a good agent. And it's, as I say, it's not really anything against him. I still have yet to see anything of his, or certainly solo stuff, that makes me laugh.
Oh, his stand-up is frightening, isn't it? Not in any awe-striking way, but it's like you say. I just,
is it too dark? Do you mean
he's like really drunk most of the time? All the stand-up I've seen of his, he's absolutely lathered. He's completely
really.
And so the audience, in fairness, so maybe that's how it works. I don't know, but his stand-up is just I can't deal with it at all. It's really funny actually, because Angelina that's my wife, hates this series, hates it. She's, why are you watching that? Why are you watching that horrible program? It's vile. Oh, I hate it. It's horrible. And one day at work, I think Johnny Vegas was in Nottingham or something, doing something or other, and she said, "I've got to go and interview Johnny Vegas."
Serves you right.
Brilliant. So I said, "Oh, you're so lucky. I wish I was interviewing him." And we were talking about it. She's going, "Oh, I really don't want to do it." She said, "He's horrible." She said, "Oh, what a horrible man. I can't. Oh no, not. Oh, I can't bear him." Because as we very often, and we all fall for this, don't we? Even if you've worked in the biz, you think the character is the person. I suspect the person is worse than the character, but there you go. That's another story. Anyway, long story short, and she came back and I said, "How'd you get on?" She said, "Oh," she said, "a nicer man you couldn't wish to meet." She said, "He's such a gentleman. He was so funny. He was really, he's such a laugh. He had time for everybody. He had a laugh with the cameraman." So, I don't know.
Was she converted to the show by then, or would it take more than that?
No, she hates it. I mean, she's not a fan of people who take drugs anyway in everyday life. So the chances of getting her to watch a comedy about somebody who deals drugs are, I'd say, pretty remote. Although I do try and slip the word undercrackers into our conversations whenever I possibly can, which I think is a Johnny Vegas creation, isn't it? That when he talks about his underpants, me undercrackers, or is that a Scouse thing? I can't remember.
I wouldn't credit him with it, but I have no idea where it comes from originally. My father-in-law uses the term, and he's a Yorkshireman, so I've always associated it with the North. Yeah,
right, okay. Yeah. Again, the writing made me laugh out loud. Did you have laugh out loud, or did you have laugh moments at all, or did you?
It was more smile out loud. But that's probably not. That's not a thing against it. I really admired the writing. I think it's just the old thing about laughter, as we've discussed before, is more a social thing, and that when if I'm viewing something with you, I might have viewed it stony-faced earlier in the day, but I start to hear you laugh and I laugh, and I'm really enjoying your enjoyment.
It was just things like when he said, like, having a laugh is what sets us apart from the animals.
That was a running gag,
apart from the hyenas, obviously. and then a bit later on, he says smoking. He said it's what sets us apart from the animals. Apart from beagles, obviously.
It's a bit tasteless, but yeah. And then the third time, did you spot that? Of course you did.
What was the third one?
Did you not like dancing? It's what sets us apart from the animals. Have you not heard of the Charleston monkey? Gets a bit lost, but brilliant. The rule of three.
Nice
again.
callback, and rule of three and stuff like that. Great writers. Well, what do you think of his acting? What do you think when we talked about his stand-up and being a comedian? What do you think? Do you think? Does he acquit himself as an actor, Johnny Vegas?
I think so. And then I don't notice his acting, which is, I think, the ultimate compliment, I think.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine anyone else being Moz. So absolutely fine, yeah. So the stand-up and him as a comedian and as an actor, two entirely separate things for me. Yes, he's very watchable.
Shall we whack another clip in and meet another couple of characters who crop up from time to time?
Let's do it.
Do you want to bring it in, or do you want me to do it?
I'd rather you held my hand. No, you do it first, and then I'll come out of it afterwards.
I'll tell you what then. I'll hold your hand while we play the clip, all right? But don't tell anyone I'm going to do that.
They needn't know.
All right. Well, it's as simple as that, really. Another couple of characters come along. Derek, I have to say, is you learn more. Graham Duff does really great building on characters throughout episodes and throughout the series as well.
Revealing sort of backplot and stuff.
Yeah, and you kind of think, oh, that's why that is like that. And you have those kind of, although, I still never got why the title was the title. But Derek is...
You can't blame Graham Duff for that, frankly.
No, that's just my own stupidity. In fact, in my school report, in fairness, it did say when I left school, thick as mince. So that was the headmaster as well. But there you are. Derek is a bit of a horticulturist. He's into all things ecological, and he's got an allotment. I think it's mentioned in this episode as well. And he's got a girlfriend who he's about to marry called Yakuzo. And they've got some great news because it turns out that I won't spoil the clip, but it turns out that they've got some great news about their plans for the evening that they share with Moz.
We're meeting for a drink in the horses at 9.
Gotcha. What next?
Stay till last orders, like.
I'd like to remember the no mistake.
And after that, who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Izuko's grandma sent us over a big box. Loads of goodies in it. For the wedding reception.
Yes, crystallized chrysanthemum, shark fin soup, fermented beans, sweet jelly cabbage,
Lovely.
blowfish cubes.
Stop. Start to salivate here.
Do you realise, Moz, if it hadn't been for you, Izuko and me would never have met.
Don't be thinking about, does it? Be like if Nitro had never been introduced to glycerine.
Moz, we want you to be best man for our wedding.
Really? Yeah, I'd love to. Nicely. Hang on. What do I have to do out?
Nah.
Brilliant. It's the first time I've been best at out.
For our non-Northern or non-English speaking audience, out is summit. Is it not?
Yeah.
It's something. And talking as we were earlier of Corrie, I do remember. I remember very little of it because I've only watched, I think, 2 episodes in my entire life, and it's been running since 1960 or something. And I just remember one of the characters saying, and probably Ina Sharples, which is going back a while. What was it? What did he want to talk about? And whoever was it? Who used to be a pairing with her hairnet?
Ina Sharples and Minnie Caldwell.
Right. Well, Minnie comes back with, it was Somerton Nout.
Yeah.
Or so
Somerton Nout, yeah.
Meaning it was sort of something, but
something
not really
nothing,
important.
wasn't it? Yeah. It's
Try translating that to an American audience.
how weird. It's interesting because I think people know we're expecting another baby. Not me and Adrian, me and my wife. And,
We hadn't had our first one, yeah.
Yeah, no.
I'm your tomboy though.
Although we did hold hands during that clip, so anything could happen there. And we're on the scour. We've had a scan and they couldn't tell whether it was a boy or a girl. Because very often they can't, depend where the legs are, basically, is the technical thing that they told us. So we don't really, so we're kind of going through and trawling through boys and girls' names. And I have to say that all the references, because Angelina quite likes some of the old names, all the references to the older names, in my mind, reference Coronation Street. So she likes Elsie, Elsie Tanner.
Elsie's back in.
Yeah, although she'd never heard of Ina. Oh, Elsie's massive now. Elsie is a huge, yeah. Lily's quite popular as well for girls.
Oh yeah, my niece is Lily. But Elsie, is that what, Lily or Elsie?
Lily. I had an auntie
Right.
Elsie, and my mum's name was Lily. Yeah, so
I had an auntie Lucy, and my grandma was Lucy, which is going some to have 2 Lucy Laces in the family?
Lucy Lacey. Why
Someone
would
was
you?
having a laugh.
I mean, I wouldn't mind if they marry into being a Lacey, and then you think, well, they can't help it. But if you christen your child Lucy Lacey,
Oh no, they did both marry into it and probably
that's
regretted it. But I think they must have done it for a bet in the pub, you know.
yeah. Friends of ours are called Tibbets, Tibbets or ETTS, and they were going to name one of their girls Flo, until they realised that it should be called Floaty Bits.
Did you point that out by any chance?
they did that one. So that was that out.
Well, at least they saw it coming.
Yeah.
Right, now where have we got to? Did you want to...
I was going to mention some of the characters. I mentioned Derek and Yakuzo, but
Yeah.
did you notice Colin? I'm on probation.
Yes. Now, where did I know him from? It was driving me mad.
Oh, do you
and I
want me to
still
tell you?
haven't answered it. Yeah, please.
He was the blacksmith in Zapped.
Oh, yes. But I'm sure he's been in something... Oh, he's done loads of things. He's a busy actor. But has he been in anything soap-like for a long time? Or
I don't think so. He's
profile?
great. I love him. I think he really lightens that up for me. He's kind of like a real sort of happy-go-lucky kind of guy, isn't he? And turns up and this again. I think this is where Graham's really clever in his writing. Is that all of the characters aren't really dark. You know, Psycho Paul, as you could imagine by his name, and Cartoon Head and Steve. I love. This is Cartoon Head, and I'm Psycho Paul, and this is Steve. You know, and his
Steve's a bit wet. He's just going along with it, isn't he?
yeah, and his twin brother got shot, which we saw in a flashback. But it's like they're kind of quite dark characters. But like I say, you know, the Colin I'm on probation character, he's quite at least decent and kind of nice sort of guy. Really, he's lightens it up a bit, I think, in a way.
Yeah, so played by Ben Crompton. I'm just looking him up as we speak. I did look him up previously, and I still can't find... I know he was in Zapped that we reviewed a few shows ago, but even then I thought, oh, now where's he from? Where do I know him from? But it has been in Game of Thrones, 102 Dalmatians, haven't seen that. Kill List. I'm sure there's some big TV thing that he was in long term.
No, I don't know him.
Even if it was Family Affairs, because I worked as an announcer on Channel 5, so my head is full of soap, even though I'm not a soap watcher, naturally. I wonder if he was in that. Family Affairs, do you remember that?
No.
They all got blown up at the end.
We had a weird thing. We went to New Zealand a few years ago, and we stayed in this place. I can't remember what it was called. Angelina would tell me she's here now, but she's not. And we're talking to the guy, and I said, "Oh, it's a lovely place you got here. You know, it's really nice." And he said, "Oh yeah, thank you." I said, "What did you used to do?" He said, "Oh, I used to work in TV." I said, "Oh really? What did you do?" He said, "I was the director on the program. You probably wouldn't have heard of it, called The Sullivans." And I said, "Oh yeah, my mum used to watch that. It was on in the afternoons, wasn't it? It was on in the." He said, "Oh, was it on in the UK? Oh wow, incredible." We stayed at this guy's house, and he now runs a bed and breakfast.
Which is a warning to anyone who goes into TV. No, he's probably much less stressed and happier, hopefully.
Yeah, he seemed quite chuffed. But anyway, sorry. So I mentioned Cartoon Head. Then I'll just the whole. I mean, he's like a kind of gangster. He doesn't say anything, does he? He didn't.
I thought he did utter a few words, but of course you can't really make them out clearly because of his mask.
He's played by a guy called David Sant, who...
Although, frankly, with the mask, he could be played by anyone, couldn't he? It's a bit like Mr. Blobby.
Yeah, because you never... In fact, I had to find, because it doesn't say in this episode, I'm sure they made a reference to it, and I found the clip to say they tried to get his mask off because he passes out, and they say never take his mask off, and his mask doesn't come off even if he wants to, but they never really explain why he's. And apparently, this is what they reckon. I've seen this online. Is that Graham Duff knew somebody who had damaged their nose through too much cocaine use, and used to wear a plastic nose. He used to wear a false nose, and that's where he got the idea for Cartoon Head from.
Right.
But the actor who plays him is Spanish. David Sant. He's actually Spanish, and he's the voice of the remake of Pingu.
No way.
Yeah.
What? Wah, wah, all of that?
Yeah. He's
A remake? I wasn't aware of a remake. I'm so behind the cultural curve.
Pingu reboot. I think they.
That used to be required viewing when I was at the Beeb first time round. And it was sort of everyone's guilty pleasure where you were allowed to be a grown-up, but at 4:25 or whatever it was, you could watch BBC One, which arguably we should have been doing anyway, working at the Beeb. And Pingu came on.
Yeah. His backstory, apparently, cartoon head, is that he was a medical student at Salford University, but he dropped out after Freshers' Week.
That's fairly early on.
So he's not. When they talking in one scene about stickability, I think he hasn't got the stickability. Has he really?
There's some fantastic lines. Oh, and when sorry, just rewinding a bit. When the two lovebirds who are going to get married show up. Izuko is Japanese, isn't she?
Yeah.
Is it Moz who says, "Oh, here we go. Here's the Plastic Ono band." Just a little throwaway.
There's some great throwaway
gem.
stuff. There really is. If I going on for the other series, not in this episode, I think it got steadily more and more surreal. And I think that's why it didn't get a recommission after Series 7, to be honest with you, is because it got so surreal towards it. I mean, it gets quite surreal towards the end of the episode, doesn't it, really?
It does, yeah.
But because of that sort of surrealism, I think it became more surreal than real. And I think even I was thinking, I'm not really sure where this is kind of going, really. I mean, the great twist in it all, and again, that it's the whole setup, is that we find out that he's getting all his various cannabis.
Oh, don't give it away! Isn't that clip 3
from
about to go?
From a friend? Yeah, I was going to say from a friend though. And you see, you kind of think it all kind of all the characters then sort of start to slot into place. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's kind of it's quite a holistic the way it's written. I'm kind of jealous of the way he's written it because it's really well thought through, isn't it? Really, I guess.
Oh, it is. You can't floor it, and it never sags. But on that note, shall I introduce clip number 3?
Can I? Do I get still hold your hand in the clip, or do it?
Optional, frankly.
All right.
We must wear protection. I'm going to wear boxing gloves. Anyway, so let's find out who, or more importantly, what role is played by the person who is supplying Moz with drugs.
There you go. Another pound of freshly busted black metalwork teacher in Broadbottom.
Nicely, brothers, nicely. Hey, here you go. There's one I prepared earlier. Looking glum. So are you. Did you get your walkie-talkie nicked again?
I've had a bit of bad news as it happens. Been recommended for promotion.
What? I'm very disappointed in you.
I know. Worst bit is if I get it, I'm behind a bloody desk. Off the beat, away from bong.
What's going on round here? Everyone's giving up or cutting down or packing it in. Now you're selling out.
I am not selling out. It's not my fault I've been recommended for promotion.
Where am I going to get my merch from if you become a desk jockey? Try getting embroiled in some scandal or something.
What's the point? Official inquiry be bound to clear my name. Hey, you going to Derek's stag do tonight? It's going to be a riot.
Oh, you bringing your big plastic shield then?
So if you haven't got it by now, the man supplying all the drugs, he's a copper. He's Moz's mate. His mate's they call him PC.
I wonder how they got that term.
For very, very, very obvious reasons. It's just the idea that he does these drugs busts. What was it, a metalwork teacher that got busted, and he brings it to Moz, and Moz sells it, and I guess they got some kind of financial deal. I forget. I'd have to watch the following episodes. And again, great actor playing that part, Tom Goodman-Hill, who has gone on to do so many great. I mean, he's done everything. I think from The Office to Call the Midwife. I mean, he's omnipresent Tom is.
Right.
Great actor as well.
And also, we didn't hear in that clip, just ahead of that clip, I think, getting my order of events correct, the copper shows deference to the bad boy we've been talking about.
Oh, it's just before that clip, isn't it? Yeah.
Does he tell the copper to F off because he said something and the copper says sorry rather than don't say to a member of Her Majesty's Constabulary
Psycho
F
Paul,
off.
isn't it? Psycho Paul.
Oh, yeah.
He's, F off, and he goes, oh, sorry.
I've crossed a line. He's in full uniform. I mean, you think the place, if you don't know the show, you think the place is about to be busted. I thought that, not being familiar with the show.
I think,
and of course, he's the supplier.
The dynamic is, and I think I'm right in saying this, but the dynamic is that it turns out that as the series goes on, that they kind of they're all their own peer groups. They were all at school together,
right?
Which is why the relationships aren't as you would expect. You know, like you say with that Psycho Paul, you know, telling the copper what to do. Is because they were you know, he'd have known him at school and known how hard he was.
The boss then.
Yeah, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So,
I meant to say, sorry, hold that thought for a sec. You mentioned that it's a baby cow production, but it appears to be in collaboration with BBC Manchester, and it's very much. I mean, the flat is set in Salford, where the BBC has a base, and I think I'm really finally, belatedly in life, tuning in to that kind of northwest humour. I never used to get it before, and I'm not a huge fan of the Lancashire accent, if I'm honest, or the Manchester accent, but there was such a warmth to the character, and it's so darn funny that you think, oh right, yeah, it really is about time that I embrace Northern English humour particularly.
Do you think humour's regional then in the UK? That's interesting.
Well, you could probably say, if it isn't, the one thing that's made it less regional over the years has got to be TV, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked before about acts going back to musical days, variety days, who didn't play, you know, north of a certain part of England or south of a certain part. Whether it still is now, well, I think there was a really healthy move when Vic Reeves broke big, and of course that was on national TV, Channel 4 with the Big Night Out. I think other northern acts were helped. I mean, I worked with, he was a children's presenter when I worked with him, called Mickey Hutton. Do you remember Mickey Hutton?
No.
Very funny guy. But actually, I then saw him as a stand-up, and my word, two separate lives. He wouldn't want the parents of the children he was broadcasting to several hours earlier in the day to know the sort of things he was doing. But, you know, that's fair game.
Yeah.
Completely different context. I think he would credit Vic Reeves with helping his career. Yeah, sorry, like an actor?
Yeah, I was just going to say that's only like an actor, isn't it? You know, turning up and doing a comedic role and then doing a straight role and, you know, doing a drama or doing a completely different character. That, you know, in a way, that's entertainers are the same, aren't they, I guess, really? But I've never really thought of, and maybe it's my generation, maybe, as you say, because I miss that kind of, I mean, they always, you know, Tarbucks and the Ken Dodds of this world always, as you rightly say, used to say, oh, you know, you couldn't go, you know, south of Oxford or whatever because they wouldn't entertain you. You know, you couldn't play the Palladium, or so-and-so was the first person to play the Palladium from the north. Les Dawson used to talk about it a lot, I think, as well.
Right.
But yeah, the only reason I say that is because I think of, you know, comedians like Jethro from the Southwest, and, you know, Jasper Carrott from the Midlands, and Billy Connolly from Scotland, and you know, and as you say, Reeves and Mortimer from the Northeast, and, you know, I don't know. Comedy seems to be, maybe it's just is now, but comedy is comedy and isn't as regional as maybe it once was. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. Maybe we need to expand this debate. It's complicated, but I'm sure Eric Morecambe diluted his accent, or whether it got diluted by virtue of touring the country.
Yeah. You do though. You do
strong.
though. I've done that myself. Like I said to you before, I think we've had this conversation. Do you know the interesting thing I found about Ideal as well is that how infrequent there is swearing in it.
Yeah, well, that might be. I mean, I know I said BBC Three. It certainly used to be more sweary, But it had more power. I noticed that, and it came at the crunch point towards the end. There was a right old strong F, sort of foregrounded, and it really worked. I thought it was much more powerful. I think it's like a currency. If you start printing more money, your economy goes belly up, and so the more you F and Jeff, the less each one has any power or currency.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Listen, time's cracking on. I think it's time that and we've covered a lot of ground, haven't we, really, when you look at what we've talked about. Time to give it a score, though. Ideal from, as you say, BBC Manchester and Baby Cow Productions. We were reviewing Series 2, Episode 1. But what do you give it as a slabberoony score?
I think it's got to be a 4 out of 5 stars. I say pretty confidently and without thinking too much, so that's good.
Same for me. Yeah. So an 8 out of 10.
Ooh. Fantastic.
8 out of 10.
Look at those big scores on the board, Miss Ford.
Yeah, so
fantastic.
What have you got up your sleeve? I could just touch it when I was holding your hand earlier, but couldn't quite tell what it was.
Yeah, well, it's when you started to play round and round the garden like a teddy bear. I thought after one step, I don't want to tickly under there. I don't know, is that a regional thing or did you have that in your youth?
Do you know what? I tickly under there every other day in this house now. So,
oh, really? Right. Okay.
Only when the postman comes. He loves it.
Yes, and hopefully not when social services are at the door. Anyway, well, I know you're going to like this, and I don't have to do a Paul Daniels not a lot, because you will like this a lot, because you actually got me into it.
Oh,
but
wow.
What you'll be pleased to know is it's had a little reprise on BBC Radio 4 Extra. And if see how quickly you can identify it.
Go on.
I'm staring at a photo of the company, which is 5 people, 3 males, 2 females. What else can I say? This is from March 2010. One of the characters' musical publicity backfires. That probably doesn't give too much away without the context. What about...
It's not Party, is it?
It certainly is Party, ladies and gentlemen. Well done, sir.
Yeah. I thought we'd done that. I thought we'd slabbed that. It just shows you.
No, we never slabbed it. You did slice me some, discreetly. I remember listening, shows how long ago it was, it's not actually the coldest winter on record, but I was outside. I might have been mowing the lawn, but beautiful summer's day. I was listening to... recording that you pointed me to. Anyway, so BBC Radio 4 Extra, hurry, because as we speak, about 3 weeks left to listen, give or take. This is on BBC Sounds, or if you're still old school, BBC iPlayer for radio. But to give you more time, and it might be slightly confusing, so apologies, it's episode 4 of 4, because if I did episode 1...
this is series 1.
Virtually, this is series 1.
Series 1, episode 4, yeah.
But I think you should set the scene because you know more about it, just very briefly. I mean, Party is a sort of political party, but not as we know it.
Yeah, it's a Tom Basden creation, isn't it, this, I think? And I think
Your hero.
Say again.
Your hero, Tom Basden.
Well, I mentioned him before, haven't I? And again, one of my other heroes, Tim Key, is in it as well. And the female... contingent as well are Katie Wicks and I forget the other lady that's in it, but great cast. But yeah, I mean they're basically they're 5 young people who have
Anna Crilly is the other woman.
Anna Crilly, that's it. Well, Wicks and Crilly used to be a double act. I don't know if you know that.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, they used to be a double act, the two of them. And probably still are, but just haven't been so busy with other stuff that they haven't had the chance to do anything. But yeah, 5 people, and they got together and they decided they wanted to start a political party, which is I think they're going to contest the Northampton seat, aren't they? I think that was.
Oh gosh, you know more about it than me.
No,
but
Corby. It's Corby. They're contesting the Corby seat in Northamptonshire because. They have a conversation about the trouser press in one of the other episodes. They come out of Corby, which I love. Just fabulous. But yeah, so, oh wow, that is, I'm excited now. Looking forward to that.
Fantastic. And I should just say, but this will be annoying to anyone listening, sort of back to this show as an archive. But if, as soon as this show lands, you will have approximately 3 days left to listen to the very final party show. I don't know if you heard it, Shane. It was a Christmas special.
Yeah, I did.
But it was just amazing.
Am I allowed to say that? I recorded it. Am I allowed?
You could say it, but you have to delete it after 28 days.
Well, it's no different from what I used to do with the cassette with the radiogram, was it? I don't. Nothing's changed, has it really? But
I'm not going to shop you, but I think you've just shopped yourself. No,
I promise I won't sell it to anyone.
No, exactly. But you're selling the idea, which has got to be good news for them, hasn't it?
I think you can buy Party. Actually, I'm sure I've seen either. I can't remember whether it was CD or whether it was MP3 downloads.
Right.
But I think it is available if you want to dig in your pocket and go and buy it.
There's a very clever setup, which I won't spoil, but I will use one mini gag, which is, I can't do it justice, but you need to listen to the show if you get a chance. Christmas special, where they make a joke out of going to a pret-a-manger and tie in manger with the manger.
Brilliant.
And you realise you've been listening to a build-up to blah, blah, blah. The nativity.
Just genius.
Fantastic writing. Yeah.
Genius. Right, that's it for a comedy slab for another episode. Thanks very much for having the patience to stay with us. If you have, if you haven't,
or having a very good hand on the fast forward switch.
Yeah, if you haven't stayed with us the whole time, then I think
same to you.
Is the most educated thing I can say to you. If you want to catch previous episodes, there's loads of ways you can do it. You can catch the whole archive on YouTube and also on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and many, many other podcast aggregators.
For some reason I thought you were going to say apple pie, and maybe motherhood should have been thrown in with that. And I appear to be head of social media references. Quite simply, we are at Comedy Slab on Twitter and on Facebook. So if you could like the latter and follow us on the former, you'll be in very good company, including Madame Demetriou. And congratulations again on the second series of Stath Let's Flats. That just about wraps it up, really. I suppose if they ever try and involve Moz or Johnny Vegas reading the 10 o'clock news, then there'll be a joke about he'll be on after the bongs. Was it worth it? I don't know. Do what you can with that.
Can I hold your hand again?